I've got a thing. Nurgle's quite cool again these days, and I've picked up a beast of Nurgle to have a play with. I've never done one of these before. I've no idea what I'm going to do, other than it's going to be mostly green. Let's see what happens. After a Wraithbone undercoat, paint all of the flesh with a couple of thinned down coats of Rakarth flesh. Using a combination of Reikland Flesh Shade and Leviathan Purple painted in rough patches and blended together on the model will give us a nicely varied base to work from. For the back of the beast, repeat the process with a Thonian Camo Shade and patches of purple. I ran the purple down the beast's spine to make the bone spikes stand out later. Using a large brush, very lightly dry brush with Rakarth flesh and over the green back with Nurgle in green, making sure you've removed practically all of the paint and using a very light flicking motion. Very lightly dry brush Pallid Witch Flesh over the whole model. Next, into the shadows of the green parts, paint a 3:1 mix of Lamian Medium and Agrax Earthshade. You can use this to create shadow and emphasize contours. I quickly went back over the purple areas to make them a little stronger and added some shadows to the face. I didn't like the green, so I gave it a glaze with 3:1 contrast medium and Plague Bearer flesh. Much better. It now has a slight yellow tint which contrasts nicely with the brown shadows and the purple. Using a 1:1 mix of Cadian Flesh Tone and Rakarth Flesh, I set about defining the highlights on the flesh area. Then topped it off with a highlight of Pallid Witch Flesh to make it pop a bit more. Now for the best bit, the boils. A base coat of Ungor flesh followed by a wash of Carroburg Crimson. Apply the wash so that it covers not just the boils, but the area around as well, to make them look a little more infected. I've also washed over the splits in the skin. This process will make the boils look quite dull, so I went back over them with the ungor flesh, then added a little pallid witch flesh to highlight. This is how he looks at this stage. It's starting to come together now. If you like, you can paint over the boils with some gloss varnish, but you don't have to. Next up, wounds and gashes using Screamer Pink. Looking very Nurgle-y now. I went with Incubi Darkness for this solitary eye. I wanted something dark to contrast with the pale face, and followed that with a little Ard coat for the shine. The tongue is done in a similar way to the flesh, Rakarth flesh and blended blobs of wash. In this case, Reikland flesh shade and Caribird crimson. Detailed with pallid witch flesh and finished off with Ard coat. Bones and horns. Really easy. Start off with skeleton horde contrast. We'll come back and finish this later. Let's get on to the exposed organs. I never thought I'd have to say that again. You can really do whatever you want here. I'm using pinks and purples for the most part, with green for the lungs, but it's up to you. I gave the organs an all-over wash with Reikland flesh shade and a coat of gloss varnish to make it look really nasty. Now that messy part's out of the way, back to the bones. First highlight to go over the skeleton horde is Ushabti Bone. Then a top highlight of Screaming Skull. Nasty. Getting near the end now, purple tentacles. Simply apply another coat of Leviathan purple wash from about 2/3 of the way up. When it's dry, do it again, 2/3 of the way up from where you started last time. Repeat this process until you're happy with the results. You can add some highlights with Slaaneshi Grey if you like, but do this towards the bottom of the tentacles. Spots and boils on the tentacles are done the same way as before. Then, base to match the rest of your army.